Caitlin Clark's revenge wasn't loud or dramatic, it was quiet but powerful. Instead of arguing online or in interviews, she chose a simple way to make her point. She said no. She turned down Geno Auriemma, rejected UConn's historic program, and even refused $1 million offer that came back to her years later. Her silence and decisions spoke louder than any words.
Like I said earlier, they actually had odds that, she was like third or fourth in the betting odds to be MVP of the WNBA. That's such a slap in the face to every WNBA player. It's unbelievable, right?
On the surface, it seemed crazy. Who would turn down over $1 million for just 8 weeks of basketball? But this offer wasn't just about money. It came from a man who once ignored her, disrespected her, and made her feel unimportant. By saying no, Clark wasn't just giving up a paycheck, she was proving a point. She showed that even he could be brought down a notch.
That's the worst part about new fans. They have no perspective. There's no context. So they just say ridiculous nonsense.
This story is about more than basketball, it's about power. For years, Geno Auriemma was the gatekeeper of women's basketball, deciding who got attention and who didn't. But Caitlin Clark changed that. She didn't need his approval, his program, or his money. She built her own empire, and when he finally came to her with an offer, she turned him down with quiet confidence, showing that he needed her more than she needed him. Geno's mistake wasn't a bad play, it was arrogance. When Clark was a kid dreaming about playing at UConn, the School of Legends, he never called. He chose Paige Bueckers instead and even suggested that Clark should have called him if she really wanted to join. To Clark, that wasn't just a recruiting miss, it was disrespect. So she chose Iowa, where she could lead instead of being overlooked. At Iowa, she lit up the sport, her deep threes, packed arenas, and record-breaking TV ratings proved she was special. Every achievement was a reminder to Geno, you missed this. But instead of admitting it, he stayed arrogant, downplaying her success and comparing her to his own players like Paige. He tried to keep himself in the spotlight by making it seem like her rise wasn't unique. But fans, analysts, and other coaches saw through it. Clark was changing the sport in ways no one else had, and Geno's subtle digs turned into open attacks. The breaking point came in June 2024, when he not only criticized Clark but also insulted her fans on national radio. In the end, the coach who once controlled women's basketball was left watching as Clark built the biggest empire the sport had ever seen without him.
Delusional fan base that follows her disrespected the WNBA players by saying she's going to go in that league and tear it apart. There were actually odds on she's third or fourth in betting odds on being MVP of the WNBA. These people are so disrespectful and so unknowledgeable and so stupid that it gives women's basketball a bad name. Okay, so the kid was set up for failure right from the beginning.
Geno didn't hold back. He called Caitlin Clark's fans delusional and said they didn't really understand basketball. Even worse, he claimed they were hurting the sport just by believing she could finish near the top of MVP voting as a rookie. To him, their support wasn't passion, it was stupidity.
Diana said it best. This kid's in for a rude awakening.
Geno's comments weren't subtle. He flat out called Caitlin Clark's fans delusional, saying they didn't understand the game and were even hurting women's basketball. And why? Because they believed she could finish in the top 4 for MVP as a rookie. To him, that wasn't passion, it was stupidity. But the timing made it worse. Millions of new fans were pouring into women's basketball because of Clark, families buying jerseys, kids camping out to meet her, casual viewers tuning into the WNBA for the first time. Instead of welcoming that growth, Geno mocked it. His words weren't just analysis, they were personal. He insulted the very people who carried the sport into the spotlight, and because of his reputation, people listened. By dismissing her fans, he was also dismissing her, saying the hype wasn't real and wouldn't last. But he was wrong, completely wrong. Clark didn't fire back online or in interviews. She answered the only way that mattered, on the court. She won Rookie of the Year, made the All-WNBA first team, and finished exactly 4th in MVP voting, just like her fans predicted. That was the ultimate revenge. Without saying a word, she proved him wrong and validated the supporters he insulted. Every deep three, every sold-out arena, Every record broken showed that Geno wasn't the gatekeeper anymore, she was. And the irony? Clark wasn't even trying to prove him wrong, she was just being herself. That alone humbled him, exposed his arrogance, and showed the world that women's basketball no longer revolved around him. His insults aged terribly, becoming some of the worst takes in sports. But Geno couldn't stop talking. Every interview brought more digs, backhanded compliments, and comparisons. The more he talked, the clearer it became. Caitlin Clark wasn't just winning games, she was living rent-free in his head. Finally, when words failed, he tried money. A new women's 3-on-3 league, backed by stars like Breanna Stewart and Nafisa Collier, had big funding and Geno's influence, but it needed one thing: a face. That's when the $1 million offer came.
And there's a lot of investors in this league. One investor, been trying to keep quiet about, his investment in the league ever since his comments that he made about a young rookie. Pretty much, had him in the headlines for about a month and a half. That is Geno Auriemma, dog. I'm here to tell you, he's part owner of this league.
That's when the desperation showed. Despite all the big names tied to the new league, only one player could make it instantly credible. Only one athlete could pull in millions of fans, attract media deals, and bring in sponsors. Only one star had the power to make this league a real competitor to the WNBA, Caitlin Clark. So Geno did what once seemed impossible. He came back to her. Reports confirmed the league offered Clark more than $1 million for just 8 weeks of play, one of the richest deals ever in women's basketball. Think about that. The same coach who ignored her during recruitment was now offering 7 figures, practically begging her to save his project. The same man who once said her hype wasn't real was suddenly trying to cash in on it. The same coach who mocked her fans as delusional now needed those very fans to stream his games and buy his tickets. The irony couldn't have been sweeter.
It looked like Geno Auriemma could be the reason why Caitlin Clark is definitely not joining the unrivaled 3-on-3 basketball league.
This wasn't just business, it was personal. If Geno managed to sign Clark, he could rewrite the story. He could make it seem like her success was still tied to his system, his vision, his control. He could spin her into an extension of his legacy instead of the proof that his era was fading. But Clark saw right through it. That contract wasn't an opportunity, it was a test. A desperate move from the same man who had spent years trying to downplay her.
They've tried to do everything they could to make the most of the situation. They tried to make the most of Caitlin Clark not playing by hinting everything and basically making people think that Caitlin Clark was going to play.
Her answer was quick and crushing. No. No explanations. No hesitation, just one word that carried more weight than all of Geno's interviews combined. She didn't need his money, his platform, or his approval. The same man who once brushed her aside was now asking for help, and she turned him down with a quiet grace that cut deeper than any public clapback ever could. That single rejection completed the humiliation. Geno Auriemma, long known as the gatekeeper of women's basketball, was reduced to offering a fortune to the very player he once dismissed, and she flatly refused. The fallout was brutal. Without Clark, Unrivaled lost its centerpiece and its credibility. That $1 million offer looked less like a bold move and more like an admission of weakness. The league needed her far more than she needed it. When she walked away, the hype collapsed before it ever began, and fans on social media roasted Geno for thinking she would save him after years of disrespect. The chess match he thought he was controlling ended in a single, effortless move, and Clark didn't even break a sweat. She didn't rant, she didn't drag him, she didn't even acknowledge him beyond her decision. She just walked away. And that silence hurt more than words ever could. The truth is simple: Geno's era is over. For decades, he and the old guard controlled women's basketball, deciding who mattered, who got the spotlight, and who faded into the background. But Clark shattered that system. She built her empire without Ucken's banners or Geno's blessing, and by rejecting his $1 million offer, she sent a message loud and clear: the future belongs to the players, not the gatekeepers. That's why this stings so deeply for Geno. His biggest mistake wasn't passing on Clark as a recruit, it was believing the sport couldn't grow without him. He thought he was indispensable. She proved he was irrelevant. And her rejection wasn't just personal revenge, it was cultural. It signaled a shift in power, a warning to every coach, executive, and power broker still clinging to control. Clark showed a new generation of athletes that they don't need permission to lead. They already have the fans, the numbers, and the star power to create their own path, and she proved it with the simplest weapon of all, one word. No.